Sander Bangma is coming from Moodle headquarters.
Hello.
Hi,
Yes,
nice to
good
see you.
morning.
Well, you are already in the evening, 6 hours ahead of us.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's late afternoon.
So I'm not going to say to you good morning. I'm going to say hello. Have a nice day. You already had the day in
Yes.
front of you. So Sander joined the Moodle headquarters at the end of 2017 and is a product manager for Moodle learning management system. He is currently working with the team to improve Moodle UX. The past releases have been significant advances in terms of usability, privacy, and accessibility. And we are very eager to hear about the Moodle 3.11, which is already out. And we are in Croatia moving to Moodle 3.11 now, but for the next year we have high hopes for Moodle 4.0, 4x, what it's going to be. So some insights how it's going to look like. So Sander, please, floor is yours. Croatia is looking for your presentation.
Okay, fantastic. And thanks very much for that. Welcome, Sandra. Well, so lovely to be here. And apologies for speaking in English. My Croatian is not good enough to do it in that language, but yeah, English it is for me. So I am Sander Bangma, product manager for the Moodle LMS. And yeah, as Sandra mentioned, I've been there a few years now. And it's a pleasure to be talking to Croatia this morning. I think, one of the amazing things we do all together, the support of the community with everybody that's here, is we work on this big project called Moodle, which, in the past nearly 20 years has grown to be the world's most trusted LMS. And it's used in, well, essentially every country in the world. And we collect some very basic statistics. So when you download Moodle, you can choose to register your site with us, just so that we know there's a Moodle site running. And there's some amazing statistics that we get from that. There's over 190,000 registered sites across the world. And on them, we've got over 265 million users. And a really phenomenal statistic is the use of questions and quizzing question bank. We've got over 4 billion questions that have been created on these Moodle sites, which is, it's incredible. All this knowledge and power that the community is putting into the Moodle platform there. There's some really large Moodle sites as well. We've got, I think, 8 or 10 Moodle sites that have over 1 million users on them. So these are really phenomenally large sites. And we developed this platform with the community. So every Moodle release, there is community contributions to the LMS. And that's part of the Moodle core release, the LMS release. But we also have 1,800 plugins, over 1,800 plugins actually, that are developed by the community. And you can find those on Moodle.org in the plugin database. And more than 1,800 different ways to extend your Moodle site. So you can always find what you're looking for. So altogether, we're really doing an amazing thing. And I like looking at these numbers, because every Mood presentation I do, I look at the numbers again and they keep going up. So it's really impressive. So thank you all for making Moodle such a great success. So today, I want to talk a little bit about Moodle 3.11. What are the key features there? We released that in May, so that's been out for just over a month now. And then look ahead a little bit to Moodle 4.0, where we're focusing a bit more on the UX and making some big improvements on what the user experience and the usability of Moodle is for everyone. But first, let's look at 3.11 then. Some of the key projects that I'll go through, and we'll start off with this one. This one was sponsored by the Moodle User Association, so that's a collaboration with them, and they vote on a project for each release, and this was the project that they voted on for 3.11, which is around improving the activity completion workflow and making it easier for students to understand what they need to do next to complete an activity. And we do that by showing some more information on the course page, activity dates and completion conditions. as well as showing that information within the activity itself. So we'll have a look at that. Here in this example, we see a course page and we see a couple of different assignments just to illustrate the concept. Here we have a first assignment that is using Moodle's automatic completion conditions, and we can see that we've added this date information: when do the submissions open and when are the submissions due. I'm actually not sure whether you can see my mouse. I hope you can, because I'm actually pointing to it. And then underneath the date information, we have two badges here that illustrate what the student needs to do. So in this case, they needed to make a submission, which they've already done. So they've uploaded an assignment, but the teacher is still to grade what they still has to mark the assignment, so they have not yet received a grade. Then if we look underneath that, we see an assignment where it's using manual completion conditions. So here the student actually has to click the button to say, hey, mark this as done. And then once they've done that, they get an example like here down the bottom. The button turns green and the text changes to done. So this is to replace the checkboxes we had on the side. It's a bit more intuitive now for the student. They can actually read what they need to do. They can click that button. They can understand what's happening. Then together with that, there is some capability for the course creator or the teacher in this course to decide whether or not they want to show that activity information on the course page and whether they want to show those completion conditions that come along with it. So they can disable that if they prefer not to show that on the course page. It will always be shown inside the activity itself though. So if we then look at this slide here, we are in an assignment activity and you can see that same information replicated up top. We provide the information on when the assignment is open for submission and when it's due. And again, the badges here that show you what the student still needs to do. They need to still make a submission here and receive a grade. So it's trying to help the student in their workflow as they're on the course page, looking at these activities and figuring out what to do. The next big new feature that we introduced was coming from a partnership together with Brickfield Education Labs. They're based in Ireland, and they primarily focus on improving accessibility. Now, Moodle's done a lot of work in terms of accessibility on the platform in the last few years, and with the Moodle 3.10 release, we achieved accreditation that we are compliant with one of the main accessibility standards, WCAG 2.1 level AA, which was fantastic and a big effort by the team. But with Brickfield Education Labs in 3.11, we're introducing the starter version of their accessibility toolkit. And that's basically a toolkit that helps a course creator, a teacher, an educator to check the content on their course for common accessibility mistakes. And then based on that, there's a bit of analysis that shows in a report as well as in a heat map. So I can show you an example here. We are here on a demo course. We've called it Accessibility 101. And we've turned on, you can see here on the side, this block called the Accessibility Review block. So this is the accessibility toolkit. And you can see a number of different types of checks that this toolkit does. It checks for common errors around images, layouts, links, different types of media, tables and texts, and then shows how many errors are in each of those sort of categories. But importantly, you can sort of visually see on the course page itself whether or not your section has passed or whether the activity has passed. So in this case, we see, let's look at the one at the bottom down here. We see this activity here, where there's 4 errors have been detected from an accessibility perspective inside this activity. And this is why it's sort of colored red, and you've got the text there to show you what has happened. So you can then prioritize in terms of if you want to improve the accessibility on your course, you want to look at this type of activity first. So it gives you a visual indication of where the most common errors are. Now, there's some options here on this block. With the little eye icon, you can turn on this heat map or turn it off. You can also download the report. There's a summary report of all the errors that you can download. And this button in the middle allows you to look at some reporting on the types of errors that you've made. So I've got some examples of that on my next page. So when you click on that reporting icon, you end up here where there's a number of tabs that show you different aspects of accessibility on your course. For example, in this first tab, the error list, you see a list of all the types of accessibility errors that were found in your course. For example, here, there was one in the assignment activity. There was a problem with an image. And what was the problem? The alt text, the alternative text was not specified for an image. And then it shows you where in the HTML code that was. And if you want to improve it, you want to go and fix that error, you can actually click on this edit link and it'll take you straight into that activity, into that location so that you can fix that error. So it's a really neat tool to help you pinpoint what's wrong and then go and resolve it. I won't show all the reports, but the other report I did want to show is this one, the activity breakdown report. This basically shows an overview of all the types of activities that you're using in your Moodle course. For example, assignment activities, a chat activity, choice activities. And then depending on the color that you see, for example, so here purple is passed and orange is failed. So we see actually that there's quite a number of activities that have accessibility problems in them. And you can see here that choice activities and the page activity have the most errors in them. So it gives you an indication to think about, well, what types of activities am I using most and where am I seeing most of these accessibility concerns, so that you can then focus on those and start to fix them with the highest priority. So these are then the tools that we've added to Moodle as supporting activities for educators while they're creating content. Moodle, the platform itself, largely improved the accessibility, and this is now to help the course creators and the teachers. This integration has a premium level as well, so you can actually you register your site with Brickfield Education Labs to allow this tool to work, but then you can upgrade to more premium levels where you get more advanced reports and more advanced tools to help you, for example, automatically fix some of these things. So it's a package that allows you to upgrade. Other things we've worked on, we've made some improvements in terms of working together with open badges. So Moodle 3.10 was already compliant with open badges version 2. And in 3.11, we've added the IMS Badge Connect API, which basically means we're now adhering to the version 2.1 standard of open badges. And the big difference there is that we've added a standardized authentication service so that you can connect with each of these different badge providers in the standardized way using OAuth 2. And it makes it more easy for A, the admin to set it up, but B, also for users to share badges from different backpacks. So as an admin now, when you are setting up OAuth 2 services, there is a new service, Open Badges. The other services were already there. So you can set up a OAuth 2 service to connect with open badges and backpack providers. And then once you've set them up, there's a small improvement we made as well on the administration page of those backpacks that you then connect to. You can actually change the order in which they are displayed to the users. So if there's a backpack that most of your users use, you want to put them first in the list. So it's really easy for them to find it and connect to it. We had a lot of community contributions as well in this release. A lot of them focused on improvements around quiz, mainly around essay questions, as well as some UI improvements. And I'll just sort of step through them now. So we've added support for plagiarism checking in essay questions for the quiz. So if you have a plagiarism detection plugin installed on your site, it can now also check the submissions from students for quiz essay questions. So in this case, obviously this was a pure cut and paste because the plagiarism score is 100%. And it just gives you another way to check the academic integrity of what the students have submitted. We've also added some additional checks again around essay questions where you can specify a minimum and maximum word count. So you might want these essay questions to be within a certain range. This example has a minimum of 100 words and a maximum of 650 words. And if the student writes text that is either below or above those word limits, a warning message is presented to them so they can tweak their text and make sure it's within that range. So both good for students as well as for teachers. Then some of those UI improvements that I mentioned, for example, here on the main quiz page, we've added some information, both for students as well as for teachers. That's the grade to pass information that previously wasn't displayed. And then for the teachers, for the educators, there's some direct links here to any sort of settings overrides. So if they've extended deadlines for a particular group or a particular user, that's right there visible on that front page. So it makes it really easy to manage those. Moving on to some other improvements that were part of the 3.11 release, they were around H5P. Some extra control in terms of how you can manage your H5P content. So admins can now disable specific content types. You can also decide when you're creating H5P content whether it's visible or not to the rest of the site. And there's some data that we're displaying that shows how often a particular type of H5P content is used on the site. So if we look at that, we see an admin view here. There's a number of installed H5P content types on the site, and the admin now has the option to specifically enable or disable particular types of content types. It makes it really easy, for example, as an institute, if you say, well, I only want to use 2 or 3 of the H5P content types, you can simply just disable them as an admin so that no one on the site can access them. The other option that we've added is in the content bank when you're working on H5P content. So we've got an H5P content type here, filling in missing words, and you've got the option as you're creating that to unlist it, which basically means that you are the only one on the site who has got access, who is seeing that content type. So you can, work in private, edit it, tweak it till you're happy with it, and then you can list it and publish it so that other people can use it. And then finally, as you're working with your H5P content, and we're looking at the content bank here, but we've switched to the list view, so you get a few extra details on the different types of H5P packages. But we now added this extra column that shows you that there's 4 other places on the Moodle site that's using this arithmetic quiz. So it gives you an indication of, if you were to delete this activity, it potentially affects 4 other places on your site. There's some useful extra information there. There's a lot more in 3.11. The release notes, as always, are available on moodle.org. But some other things that I wanted to highlight is we improved the support for the Google Drive repository, adding proper support for shared drives. Some changes there in Google Drive that we had to incorporate to be able to support that. We have some improvements for the video or the media player in Moodle, the Video.js player. You can now adjust audio and video playback speed. Some improved filtering options on the completion report, which I'll show in a second, as well as the ability to add additional custom profile fields. So here we see an example of the media player. We're looking at a video here, and everybody is familiar with this now from looking at YouTube and other places, that you can adjust the playback speed. So you can go a little bit slower if you want to more carefully listen, or you can speed it up a little bit if you want to go through it a bit quicker. So that's nice for students as they go through their content. Here we see the activity completion report page, and we've added these items here at the top to help you filter down this list. So you can look at all participants, or you can filter by a particular group. You can look at all activities and resources, which are shown here, or you can look at a specific activity or resource type, and you can also change the order in which they're displayed. Use the order in the course or alphabetical order. So it's extra insights you can gain to quickly get to those data points that you want to see. And then we mentioned those custom profile fields. So if, for example, on your site you've created custom profile fields, for example, here the admin has defined a preferred language fields that they think is useful, you can now actually pull that in places where you're showing sort of the student identity information. So for example, here on the participants page, you can display this additional column, and it just gives you that extra bit of information that is useful for you. And then finally, also on that participants page, there's a filter there, and we've added now an option to also allow you to filter by country. So if your Moodle site is international, you can now use the filter as well in the participants page to look at which countries people come from. So that was a quick overview of Moodle 3.11. Yeah, please all download it, play with it, and give us feedback. I hope it's useful improvements for you. But now, yeah, let's look ahead at Moodle 4.0. Some bigger changes happening there. It's really quite exciting. And I guess just stepping back to look at somewhat of the bigger picture, you know, about 18 months ago, we decided to take a little bit longer with the Moodle 4.0 release and give us a bit more time to make some big UX improvements. We still had requests to also put out interim releases that could include community fixes or some smaller projects. So this is why we have a 3.10 and a 3.11. And 3.11 has just been released. So now we're fully focused on 4.0 and working on improving navigation all around Moodle, making that easier for people. For teachers, we're working on some improvements around creating and managing courses. For students, working on that course page and making it easier, for example, to see what they need to do to complete a course. So some of that work, that MUA project around student activity completion that I showed for on the first slides, was actually work that originally was planned for 4.0, but together with the Moodle User Association, we could deliver it for 3.11, which was good. And we're also doing things, you know, for developers. So when we're improving the user experience and the UI of Moodle, we are working on what we are calling a component library, which will be the standard sort of building blocks that you can use to create plugins for Moodle and to extend Moodle. We'll be using those same building blocks like buttons and tabs and other UI components as we're working on 4.0, and we are consolidating that in a component library that we're making available for everybody to use as they are extending Moodle and adding new things. And then beyond 4.0, we'll continue the work from a UX perspective, and we're sort of in 4.0 working mainly in terms of the bigger picture framework around Moodle, how are you interacting with courses and the navigation. And then in the following releases, I really want to focus in and look at all the individual activities and resources and key pages, and also improve the UX in them. So it's a lot of work ahead of us. I'll quickly step through some of the background for this. So when we set out to do this, we went through a discovery phase where we did a big survey, got lots of people responding to us, and based on some of those results from the survey, we then did some workshops a little bit later, where we had 12 different workshops and people participating, providing input, giving ideas, looking at where sort of key problem areas are that we need to improve. When we look at the survey results, some main focus areas that came out of that was around improving course creation for teachers, for students. You know, the feedback we got was the interface is quite confusing. How can we make it easier for them? Setting up activities, quite complicated. Are there things we can do there? And just general workflow, getting from one point to the other in Moodle, trying to make that easier. Was some of that feedback that we received. So based on that, we sort of picked two focus areas. One is looking at the teacher user journey, and the other area was looking at the student user journey. We consider them the primary users of Moodle, so we focused on that first, and then both sort of user groups gave us feedback on navigation, and we should look at improving that for teachers and course creators, try and make it easier to create courses, edit courses, move things around. And for students, they would love to see a bit more information on what they need to do next. So we tried to take that into account as we started planning our roadmap. I do apologize, this slide didn't quite turn out okay, but so for Moodle 4.0, the main areas to focus are around navigation, course creation, doing a course, as well as some work on the dashboard. And that's all sort of in scope for 4.0. We have limited time, so we can't do everything at once. But those are the main areas that we're working on. And then after 4.0, we'll continue to work on improving the dashboard, providing more information there, looking at different types of activities, for example, assignment, to improve the user experience and the workflows in that, as well as other sort of key pages, such as Gradebook, a very complicated page at the moment, and what can we do to simplify that and make it easier to use. So we're doing lots of work for 4.0. We've still got lots of work ahead of us as well, but it's a very exciting time. And just to, I guess, reveal a little bit of this, you may have already seen some of this if you've been taking part in some of our UX surveys. We have a page on moodle.org. It's moodle.org/UX with some forum discussions and links to various prototypes, so you can sort of follow some of the action there. There's also a sign-up link there. If you're interested in participating in some of our user testing, you can sign up on that page too. But let's look at some prototypes. So keep in mind, these are UX prototypes. This is not yet an example implemented in a real Moodle site, but it gives you a good indication of some of the key things that we're structuring differently. The look and feel of this is likely to still change a bit, but this is really the basic information architecture and structure of the pages that we're following. So we are here now on the dashboard, and I guess there's a few things of note here. The most sort of prominent change that we've made here is that you can see up top here we have these navigation elements. These prototypes are shown here from the viewpoint of a site administrator, which is why you see this link here to the site administration. But these sort of primary site level navigation elements used to be in the drawer on the left hand side here. So we're actually removing that drawer and putting that primary site level information up top here. Some other key changes that you can see is we still have our dashboard page, but we're actually moving the course overview block away from there and putting that dashboard for now. In a dedicated My Courses page, which I'll show in a minute. On the dashboard for now, we put the calendar as well as probably the timeline block to sort of visualize next things that are coming up for the students and teachers. But we want to do more work on that dashboard page later on. Some other nice things is that we are wanting to make it a bit easier for people when they come to Moodle to understand what's happening. So we think we can do this with some of these little highlights that show you what's new and what's changed. So for example here, there's a little tab here on the side. If you click on that tab, it would slide out a drawer, and that's where the blocks will go in Moodle 4.0. So the blocks will be on a collapsible drawer. Then if we look at the next page, we're coming to that My Courses page, which sort of mentions the course overview block is going to be moved there. We're doing some design tweaks on what that will look like, giving some, the standard filtering options were still available, but we're adding a search there. If you've got lots and lots of courses, adding search can be really convenient. But also importantly, we want to make it easier for those teachers and course creators to manage their courses as well as creating new courses. So little things like making an easy pathway to do that stuff is what we're trying to do, and making those buttons available there for teachers just to manage their courses or create a new one straight away. Then when we actually look inside a course, there's a few new things coming here. Again, you can see this little highlight here. It's actually highlighting that we've got this new edit mode option here up top in that navigation bar. So previously that was a button on the page to turn editing on. We've actually made that consistent now across the site. So if you have got the capabilities to edit the Moodle site, they will be shown in that top navigation bar, and you can turn it on and off from there. Also important is that on the left-hand side here, we have a course index. So basically that gives you an outline of the course. You've got your section headings here, and then activities underneath them. And if you're in editing mode, you can actually use this to drag activities and sections up and down right here in the course index, and that will change the order here on the course page. So you can do all of that editing there. Also important to highlight here is the secondary sort of navigation, the course level navigation that we've put on tabs. So previously they were all hidden in a cog. We're creating now these tabs that pull out the most relevant items.
I just wanted to say we have some questions. I think that people would very much like to get the answers. So maybe if you can summarize what's, I don't know how much you have, and focus on questions.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. I'm nearly done. I just wanted to quickly show the mobile views. So you would have your primary navigation available from this hamburger. It would slide out like this. And then when you are actually in a course page here, the course level navigation would be part of this drop down. So you can see all your course level items in here. And then very quickly, other improvements coming in 4.0. So we're not just doing UX. There's more stuff coming. We're integrating the Big Blue Button plugin for video conferencing. We're doing some work on LTI to make Moodle also a 1.3 advantage provider. The report builder from Moodle.
Do you see the questions, or you want me to read them to you?
That I mentioned.
First one.
That was my last slide. Here you go. So.
Yeah.
All right.
So first one is from Zvonko. He asked, will there be a new base theme for Moodle 4X? Also, will old boost-based themes work with Moodle 4, or we need to develop the new themes?
Yep. Yeah, good question. So for Moodle 4.0, basically we are improving the current Boost theme. So Boost, as it is in 3.x, will sort of be upgraded to the new user experience. It's all still based on Boost. It is still based on Bootstrap. What that means, well, the good news is it's all still based on Bootstrap, so you can use those existing components, but you will probably need to do a bit of work to adapt your themes to Moodle 4.0. We're making some bigger changes here because it's a 0.0 release. So some of those changes are actually going through our integration process at the moment. So if you do have access to our integration Git repository, you can see how some of those changes are happening right now. I'm working with the team to provide some guidance as well to theme developers as to how they can transition their theme.
The next one you already showed some on mobile phones, how it's going to look like, but the Yasmin is asking, won't these highlights be a problem on Moodle device or smaller screens?
Yeah, so you mean these ones? Well, obviously we have a design here, and the idea is that they are shown once, and then the next time you come to
the
that
last
same
one
page,
is from Ivana. She
So
asked
it's really just
any news
to
on better
help guide you
support
around the
of
first time you
XAPI
come there.
statements in Moodle
And I think,
internally,
yeah, with the
both
designs that we
gathered
have,
from
that will work.
HV5P or from any other third-party module. As far as she knows, some functionalities are still hard to achieve. Or core support for XAPI statement repository, maybe.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, good question. So when we integrated H5P into Moodle, we developed some basic frameworks inside Moodle around XAPI because H5P uses that in the background. We didn't do a full implementation though, and there's no repository currently in core for XAPI statements. I think there are some plugins though in the plugin database that you can install to help you do more with XAPI. But at the moment we don't have major XAPI.
I can imagine that Moodle 4 will bring definitely, from what we have seen, big changes. And you can imagine, as we have here at Srce the largest, I would say, Moodle installation for higher education in Croatia. It has about 27,000 e-courses, you know, so about 95,000 students. So definitely lots of work when Moodle 4 comes, because we have to change all support from menus, from animations, from courses, training courses, and so on. So we would be eager that you put this out not in June, because we have to prepare ourselves for the autumn, but maybe a little bit earlier in the year. But okay, we are very looking forward to this new version.
Yeah, so no, fantastic. So the Moodle 4.0 release is scheduled for the end of the year. So if everything goes exceedingly well, then it'll be November. If we need to take a little bit more time to make sure it works well,
we are looking forward to
but
implementation of
end of the year
XAPI and
is certainly the
modular
time frame we're going
repositories in
for.
future.
So hopefully that
put
gives
it
you enough time
in
to
your
prepare for next year.
agenda to add this as well. Well, we have come to the end of your presentation. Very happy that you have presented us the new issues related to the Moodle 3.11, which we will start with in autumn, with new academic year implemented. And well, I keep fingers crossed that Moodle 4.0 will be really a nice present for all of us working with it, that we will take it easily and with joy, without any bugs and problems sometimes which occur, but nevertheless, yeah, we have to move forward. So thank you very much for being with us today to share the new insights from Moodle, and good best regards from Zagreb, from Croatia. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks very much for having me. It's lovely to meet you all and present on Moodle, and thanks.
Okay.